All right, we are starting off on what could be a 9 to 12 mile run. Now, we're gonna save the shaded part for a little bit. Depending on the heat, we're down here in Texas and the sun's already up pretty strong, even though it's 8 a.m. And yeah, how far we go depends on our heat tolerance. And we started off with Emily and Zoe, and they went a different direction after about half a mile because they're not going to run as far as we are. So let's show a little bit about the prep for this morning. But oh yeah, before we do that, there you go. We did a 4-hour gravel bike ride yesterday. 3 hours with Kai, and then I did an extra hour. So lots of miles, lots of heat. So we're running one day later, a long run. It's a good test of endurance, making us tough for our future bike event coming up. And that video will be out later this week after I edit it down. Kai got chased hardcore by a dog. Got it on video. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's go ahead and jump back a few minutes and see what it's like getting prepped for this run at the top of the hill and getting him cooled down. Let's go. All right, here's your running fuel. Yep. Let's go. Yeah. It's gonna be a fun run. I will be using 200 calories of old scratch that we've got laying around. Hopefully it's not so old it makes me sick, but it's really good for hydration, which we will need because we're gonna be out on 9 to 12 miles, kind of based on how we feel. All right, it's Texas, so it gets hot. So we're gonna wet ourselves down. He knows the drill. Oh yeah, nice and soaked. And he's gonna do about 6 miles. Not in the face, he doesn't like that. But this will help him definitely stay cooler for a lot of the run. Okay, very cute. All right, first thing we do is we warm up a little bit, walking to the top of the street. That way we're running slightly downhill for the first half mile. It's a really good warm-up strategy. And let's see, the watches on tap for today are, we have the T-Rex 3, not the Pro. The Pro came out that has a flashlight right here. And something else that was really cool. Oh, it has a speaker on it. So your voice memos, you can actually just play them right off the watch. I'm looking for that for Christmas, would be pretty cool because I love the flashlight thing. And then for total elapsed time, we have the Seiko Captain Willard, same watch in Apocalypse Now, and 200 meters water resistance and a diving bezel, which I'll turn, see right there, the top button right there. I'll move it to the minute mark and we'll have total elapsed time, which is fun to have. So we know actually how many calories and how much time and sun exposure, and just real quick can see time of day on either wrist. And we're waiting on the beautiful Zentri nurse and Zoe to come with us. And they'll be coming out there any second. We'll be on the road. I guess while we wait, we can show 200 calories and goes in the deep pockets of real running shorts, have deep pockets. 2 flasks of 10 ounces each, and then a belt clip to a rope I got tied around my waist. And then I can run hands-free with him on this retractable leash. But most of the time I run with them in my hands. Sorry, I had it tilted. And then on test, we have the pocket knife right here to see how it holds up. And it's clipped to the other rope, other side of the rope behind my waist. And what we're doing is salt testing, sweat testing to see if it corrodes. And so far, it's been doing pretty good. I did a long ride yesterday and 3 hours with Kai, another hour on my own with a knife in the jersey pocket. Oh, there's Emily. And I think she's trying to get her life together over there too, just like me. There's Zoe. There she is. So that's what we got going on today. All right. So here we are, Zoe with her harness. That doesn't fit very well. We keep trying. And there's rabbits all over the place. So this is a little bit of chaos at first. Come on, let's go. We're gonna go left. Go left. Good boy. Got a hunting dog and a guard dog. The world's worst trained guard dog. You take a guard dog and then give them zero training, and then you just have a whatever this is. And when they run together, they act way different than when they run by themselves. Very excited. Jump up, jump up, jump up. Come on. Jump up, jump up. Jump up. Okay, maybe not. All right. Yeah, the difference between all that and the calmness of this is quite stark. You definitely want to train with other people on occasion, but it really makes you appreciate the calmness of doing a route also that you repeat often, so you're very familiar with it, so you can focus on the training and not the chaos. You want to find your peace and happiness. Something like this. But isolating yourself all the time isn't realistic, and then you'll be ill prepared dealing with chaos when it eventually does happen. So it's nice to mix in a little bit of both. So another thing today is I've got to decide whether to take my entire bike in to get the sound in the drivetrain figured out, or I just take in the rear wheel. Oh. And the deal is the rear wheel, something in the drivetrain or in the bike. It's hard to say. It could be the seat post. So the big question is today, do I take in the entire bike or just the rear wheel? Because something in the bike, after I get an hour or so in, and it's now happened twice, is making a kind of a grinding sound, like crunching paper a little bit. And I was riding with Kai, and he said that it sounds like it's the bearings in the rear wheel. When they start getting dried out, they sound like that, maybe, but it's so hard to tell with so many moving parts. And then if I take the whole bike in, they may be able to spot something, like the chain is stretched, the cassette is trashed, you know, that I don't know about. But it is interesting, it doesn't happen at first. And then when I backpedal, it goes away, and then it comes back. What do you smell there? That's lenses. Got the sweat effect on it, doesn't it? This is so nice right here. But I took the chain off and spun the cranks and the bottom bracket bearings. It's new. That sounds smooth. And the pedals were new for this ride, and it's been doing the same sound for several rides now. So it's not the pedals. So then, yeah, you get in the cassette, chain, derailleurs are relatively new. and seat post contamination as you pedal. It makes that sound, and it makes it as I pedal. Oh, but the shoes are squeaky as well, but I think it's different than the shoes. So I don't know, but I don't want to spend a lot of money taking it in for them to find nothing. So right now, my mindset is clean the seat post and do what else? Relube it. And the bearings on the rear wheel probably need to be replaced anyway. So possibly take the whole bike in, get the bearings on the rear wheel looked at, and if they notice anything else while it's in there, have them fix it. Like the chain stretched or the cassette's blasted or both. And that's where we are with the bike. Okay, come on. So I'm remembering now that last week's 12-mile run was really successful because I started a half hour earlier and it was overcast. Temperatures were about the same at first, but this sun will eventually wear into you. And also another interesting thing is the town's really happy today because Texas A&M played Mississippi State and we won. And it's a big game for us. And we're in Aggie Land, College Station, which is where Texas A&M is located. And on these long runs, I let him check stuff out because it simulates trail running and long runs for real, where at aid stations, or if it's trail running, it's technical on occasion. So you want to practice, like, you know, going down like rough stuff like this and going back up and walking through aid stations to make sure you get a lot of fuel at just a nice slower pace. So it doesn't bother me at all. But also, Kai and I's bike ride yesterday was really successful. It was full sun like this, but I ended up going faster by a good margin. And I think it's because I started off relaxed. 50 millimeter rear tires front and back. Nice casual ride. And temperatures were a little bit lower. And I've been doing some interval work the past couple weeks. Oh, and I also added my power meter pedals back on. And so in that video, like I said, it'll come out in about a week or less. I talk about power meters, but also the concept of Slowmaxxing, of going faster by slowing down. Little things you can do to slow down that end up giving you way more speed or endurance by being more relaxed. So in the end, it's faster, kind of like yesterday was. So those are tall. All right, we'll be back. We're on mile 2.22. Deuce, deuce, deuce. Feeling pretty good already. Holy crap. Another runner. She's gone into the shadows. Let's see if she lights up in the sunlight. There you go. Don't see a lot of runners way out here on these roads. What's funny is for really long workouts, as long as we keep moving to get started, I've learned to not get as concerned or worked up or frustrated with all the chaos at the beginning. Dealing with 2 dogs and waiting on other people, or like leashes crossing each other, or which way are we going, and all that stuff. The beginning of a long workout, actually how it goes doesn't really matter that much. No, we're going, you want to go that way? Okay. It's the second half of the long workout where the real work is done. And not too long into the first part of a long workout, the chaos kind of sorts itself out. So you just kind of laugh it off. And it'll get plenty hard later on. So just take it all in stride, which is funny for running. And it's actually kind of funny. Like, I'm trying to get going for something long, and all the things that are, just the chaos. And the ridiculousness of it all. Like, he's stopping a lot right here because there's an apartment complex and people walk their dogs, and he likes to check it out. Well, this is part of the warm-up, you know? A little bit of slow, checking things out. And yeah, if I'm running 12 miles or so, this little stopping here and there is not the worst thing, because it'll keep me from getting injured because I started off slowly. And then I'll drop him off, and the second half of my run, I'll be by myself, and it'll be harder. And I'll be wishing for the times that he wanted to stop and sniff stuff, because I'll have no excuse. All right, we're going to go right. Go right, over here. Come on. Come on, we're going this way. Okay, here's roll in the grass stop number 1. You got to get all the outdoor smell on you. Come on, let's go. Good boy. Hop down. One funny thing that people do as it gets hotter is they keep running the exact same speed. It's so funny how it really doesn't cross your mind. No, we're gonna go this way. Come on. To slow down. You just keep running the exact same speed, uphill, in the heat. And see, it just went to cooler. You can run a little bit faster right here in the shade. And then the pockets of sun that are longer and like uphill, you just slow down a little bit. Because it's the impact on the body, not the stopwatch, that has the biggest effect on you. Another thing crossed my mind. The other reason that last week's long run was so successful is I brought gummy worms with me, and we're all out. So when I swing by the house to drop him off, I guess I'll grab gummy bears. They're not as good because they're slick, and it's easier to drop them or choke on them or whatever. So. Another upside of running the same route over and over and over again is you start discovering little things to help you optimize. And there's a water stop with a garden hose halfway through this run. And if we look closer, he drank out of the hose. He's all glistening with water. He's my second all black dog and had a big black lab, and they get hot in the sun, even though they're great running dogs. The black fur is pretty tough on them. Zoe's got yellow fur. Had 3 dogs, I think, with yellow fur, tan fur. What's tan fur? It's for looking like the desert. And I'm seriously thinking about doing this route again, because it's kind of a mellow route and there's shaded spots like this. So when I'm out here an hour later, half an hour to 45 minutes later from now, this will still be shaded, and this other dirt road over there will be shaded as well. You want to check out some sniffs? And the water's for me too. You can bring all the fuel in the world and have tons of energy, but if it doesn't have water with it to digest it, it'll make you sick to your stomach. That's a major problem people have doing long events. They eat gels and gels and gels, but each gel is supposed to have at least like 10 to 12 ounces of water on a normal day. Imagine if it's really hot. All right. There's like a little Animal Crossing right here, and he likes to stop and sniff it. So a lot of runners try to go out with as little as possible, but they end up not having a great workout, and it's kind of a waste of your time a little bit. And you're dehydrated and underfueled and whatever for the rest of the day. Where last week, because I fueled so much and drank so much the entire run, I felt great the rest of the day, and got tons of other stuff done. It's a good productivity hack for endurance athletes. Try to train low fuel, low water, low carb, all that stuff. Sure, but you're gonna pay for it in the rest of your life, just feeling like crap and under-energized. Coming back to that chaos earlier, I think that's so interesting how over the years I've figured out, these long workouts are actually my meditation time and my relaxed time, to be out forest bathing. And at the same time, you want to do some trail running? You want to run in the grass? In the shade? Let's do this. It's good for the ankles to practice running on uneven surfaces. And it's in the shade, so it'd be nice. With experience comes wisdom. And knowing that the end of the run is going to be hard anyway, and that's where the real work is done anyway, that the frustration of things not going right, and definitely anti-meditation at first. There's a lot more behind the camera that y'all didn't see. And but with wisdom, you just kind of laugh it off, because this is just the way it is. They start off like that, and then they just get better and better and better as the run goes on. You really start working on yourself. And oh yeah, about rerunning the same course all the time, because it's got a bunch of different variations of how I could take it. I know how running it on a sunny day with the wind kind of out of the east, northeast. There's a flag blowing towards the west, so the wind's out of the east. I know which routes to take, which streets to take first and second and last and stuff. That'll reduce the heat, which is the main limiting factor to a successful workout. The other course I would have taken today for the second half has no water fountain on it right now. The water fountain's broken. So that's a major limiting factor right there. Oh, this is so nice. I'm definitely saving this road for the very last part of my second lap. There is a breeze rolling through here from that way, and it's all so shaded. Even when the sun changes where it's at overhead, it'll still be shaded nice, and then that breeze going through, blowing leaves even. Super peaceful road. You see, everything's about smart choices early on. See this side of the road, I could run on either side of the road. It's uphill in the shade or uphill in the sun. Over there. Making good choices early on makes the second half so much better. See, this is a little bit of slow maxing right here. It's a twisty turn. There's kids coming. There could be other dogs. It's uphill. It's a great place to have an unfortunate interaction with another dog. They pick a fight or something like that. So walking the technical stuff, and also, see, there's somebody. When I crossed the boulevard back there's a median and there's cars coming. So I walked it. I slow maxed it. Because trying to hurry across that thing is a great way to trip and injure yourself or strain yourself because you're suddenly trying to sprint across it. And there's nothing slower than being injured and not being able to run at all. It sets back your training big time. And like I said, slowing down and negotiating your way through technical challenges is very real training for trail running. And if you do that, you'll have a much more successful, longer trail running career. One of the craziest things I've seen is running the Rocky Raccoon in February, January, and that it snowed and iced a little bit the night before. And just a few miles in, instead of walking carefully across this short wooden little bridge, super short, would only take a couple extra seconds to walk it because it looks slick, possibly with ice. This person in front of me ran it, you know, because mile 3 on a 100-mile run is really important. And they slipped and fell and broke their leg right there. All that training, all that down the drain. It's very, very real. All right, we are at 6.07 miles. We've got a run route. We're definitely going to repeat this for part 2. All right, dropped river off. This scratch is working so well. I added another 100 calories. I had about a third left. So that should even out for another lap. And I'm doing runner math and trying to time it so I finish at the bottom of this hill and I can walk up to the top and do a wrap up of how the run went. You know, slow maxing isn't just about training, it's about life. You know, I used to think, oh, it'll mess up my run statistics and all that crap. Stopping to drop off my dog and refill on water, it's all stopping time, you know. But then I'll have to spend time later walking him, and also behavior problems. Or if I take him with me running, it's worth it. He ends up being a much happier dog. You actually train your dog while you're running with him, you know, to obey commands better and stuff. When I used to run with my 2 other dogs, they could do 3 to 4 miles each, and I would do a 3-mile loop, drop one dog off, and swap it out with the other dog. One was a golden retriever mix and the other was a Dalmatian mix. So they're very different looking dogs. And people would stop me and go, didn't you just have a different dog? I go, yeah. They can only run about 3 miles each. Drop them off. River's a special breed. I mean, that dog can just run. It's like a wolf. But also as they get older, they get tired out sooner. But taking the time to do things right is part of the slow max lifestyle. And the benefits just keep piling on. It's amazing. And the interesting thing is, you know, we're in the full sun here, which is way hotter. But I know, because I looked at the weather and the flags, the wind's coming from that way. So if I run the really hot parts into the wind, it has a major cooling effect. It's much, much nicer. You get a more successful long run in. Where I grew up in the southeast, we'd play outside all day long and hardly ever use any sunscreen unless we went out on a lake on a boat, because it's such thick forest. Where I live here, you know, I seek out woods and stuff, so it looks like there's more than there is, but this is prairie. And it's really frustrating to not have shade on long bike rides and stuff. Because if you ride on a paved road, you know, they push the stuff back. The gravel roads, you get trees way up closer, so it's much nicer. But the reason I talk about shade so much, it's because I've lived both ends of the lifestyle of the spectrum there. I started doing stuff out here, and it's just the sun, because there's nowhere near as much shade, really tears you apart once you get out in the prairie and then to the west. I live in San Diego. I mean, you talk about no shade anywhere. For a long time, I grew up in Kingwood, northeast Houston, and it's thick pine forest, and it's got 100-something miles of trail through the woods. And we didn't think about sunscreen much then either, if you're just out riding your bike and playing around or running, because the amount of shade is unbelievable. It's so nice. Or yeah, here I live on the edge, and if you go just a 45 minutes east of here drive, you end up in the national forest, Sam Houston National Forest, which is all pine trees. It's thick, and all of a sudden you don't have to worry about heat management or wind exposure so much. So when I talk about it a lot, I'm not exactly obsessed with it. I have to deal with it. And I see it both sides and what a difference it makes. Like, this is very typical for where I live. Just this really beats you down. So you have to go out of your way to find shade. And when you do, it is so worth it. It's amazing. I think people that train where there's lots of shade go out and do races where there's not a lot of shade, and then they end up not having the skill set or the experience or the knowledge or the experience and exposure to how to maximize shade use in a race with no shade. It's definitely something to practice and be aware of. And what you do is when there's full sun and it's hot and there's not much you can do about it, you slow down. This is a really nice example right here. We went that way and turned around. And now I'm running with the wind in the heat. And it is hot all of a sudden. No shade up until way up there. But also what I do is just kind of slow down and start drinking a little bit more water. I can pour water over my head because I got enough water. That'll cool me down. Might start doing that right now while I'm talking. And if I talk about mileage for the week, this might be my last workout. Unless I do some bike maintenance and see if it still makes that creaking sound, like lube the seat post kind of stuff. But anyway, if I do 12 miles today, that'll be 30 miles for the week. And it's always nice to compare your numbers versus a Kona qualifier, which world championships. You got to do the volume first, and speed kind of comes second. But typical Kona qualifier runs about 45 miles per week, 40 to 45 miles per week. Now, how they run those miles is interesting, but you at least got to start off with the base. And then, so I'm doing 30. So I train at a real solid half Ironman level, like all the time. That's sustainable. You start trying to train for Ironmans all the time, your life kind of falls apart. So, and for biking, typical Kona qualifier bikes 200 to 250 miles a week, I think, and that can vary a lot because of terrain. Kona qualifiers come from all over the place, and how hilly it is and stuff makes a big difference. And I ride a lot of gravel to get away from traffic, but I still ride in the aero bars. So I ride triathlon style. And I think, so gravel's slower, but if you adjust for time instead and did like typical Ironman training speeds, I usually average about 20 miles per hour on my tri bike. And on the gravel bike, I average about 15 because it's so much more steep and technical and the bikes are slower, but man, it's so worth it. I'm Slowmaxxing big time. And it's a good time to take on some more. It's starting to get really hot. I've got that tailwind with me that even I'm in the shade, it's starting to cook me a little bit. So I'm gonna bring my temperature down. By the way, I do coaching. Send an email to texifornia@gmail.com. Texifornia@gmail.com. I do custom coaching, do ultra distance, Olympic, all the way up, single sport, triple sport, all the way up to mega ultra endurance stuff. 20 years experience, 25 maybe by now. And run 100 miles, a bunch of 50 milers, swam 22 miles across Lake Tahoe, no problem, all with just smart training. And I've done an Ultraman, which is like a double and a half Ironman. And I think 15 Ironmans or 18 Ironmans. And a whole bunch of long distance gravel stuff. A lot of fun. Anyway, so if you account for time and resistance, I'd say I bike about 150 miles per week right now. And that's over 3 or 4 rides. And then swimming is interesting. I swim 3 times a week, an hour at a pop. And because I grew up on swim teams, it's easier for me to get in the distance in a shorter amount of time. So Kona qualifiers swim about 12,000 yards per week. And I can do that in 3 swims of 1 hour each. So I swim like a 130 pace, 125 pace. I do very long sets and very little rest. And then that gets that volume in really easily. And it's kind of like somebody's a really fast runner and they go out and run 20 miles, but they do it in like freaking, I don't know, 2 hours or something. Yeah, it's like so frustrating. But so much of that is about form and if you grew up on swim team or something. But lately, for upper body strength, I've been throwing in butterfly. And butterfly's a little bit slower. So I'm doing 3,500 yards per week in an hour. But 500 yards of that is butterfly, which is incredible cross training for freestyle. It's so much harder. And I mix it in with the swim, and it ends up being really great. So even though I'm only doing 3,500 yards instead of 4,000, 500 of it is hard butterfly. Which actually I want to talk about more later, about how you can turn butterfly more into yoga practice. You can turn your whole swim more into yoga practice by just working on form and breathing and technique and pacing. And it turns out you actually go faster. Slowmaxxing. We're gonna be out in the shade here in a minute. Gonna run through that office park. I'll be right back. All right, we picked up some more water. I forgot to mention that I'm so into Slowmaxxing. I actually created some t-shirts. And they're really cool. Soft light cotton, dark gray one and a white one. And it says slow in cursive and light blue. It's nice and relaxing. And then maxing and bold regular print letters. Go check it out at Zen Endurance. And the name of the website where you can print to order is Printful, like print and then FUL.me. So Zen Endurance, Printful.me. Go check out these t-shirts because there's so much, not just to training, but to life. The other day I was back and forth to my car twice trying to leave the house. I kept feeling like I was forgetting something. I'm stressed out. And I was like, just stop. Slow down. It's worth it to be late by a couple minutes than to forget something that's going to make the rest of the day suck. And so, some birds. Immediately just started, stood still for a minute and then just started walking very slowly. And then within a minute or two, I remembered what it was. And Slowmaxxing is actually a thing. You can look it up on ChatGPT. It's purposefully doing things slower to reduce anxiety and stress. It's a response to overwhelm and trying the world asking too much of you. Car back. And so when somebody tells me, I've been doing it half my life or more of my life, yeah, hurry up, whatever, I go, I don't hurry. It's not worth it. You have to like stand your ground. And then there's a ton of little tricks I'm going to talk about over the next few months that I've started documenting in my everyday life. Earlier this week, I was leaving the house, getting in my car, got in my car, and I started backing out of the driveway. And I was like, man, I feel like I've forgotten something. I don't know what it is. Let's do a little bit of technical walking. And I've come up with this trick. I live halfway down a dead-end street. And the dead end has a nice turnaround in it. It's called a cul-de-sac. And I was like, well, I've learned this trick. If I feel like that, instead of leaving my house and getting a mile from the house down the road, and then being like, oh, I got to turn around and go all the way back. What I do is instead I back out of my driveway and I go the wrong way. And by the time I get to the end of my street, where I've got to turn around and come back and go by my house again, that very slowing down of everything, because the mind is like either overstimulated or it's bored, and your good ideas or the things you need to remember come to you when you're bored. If you're overstimulated because you're in a rush, they're just blocked. So now I'm just kind of going the wrong way, and I'm like, oh, whatever. And then it came to my mind what I was missing. I was like, oh, my sunglasses, and I was wearing contacts, so I didn't have glasses on. And it was going to be a full sun day like this. And I was going to be doing a bunch of driving and being outside some. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. My sunglasses, I totally need those. So now I'm going back by my house again. Right? And I just pull up in front of my house, leave my truck running, walk inside, grab my sunglasses, hop back in my car, and start driving. And it's just so relaxing. Where if I didn't do that way, I probably would have just kept on driving and been annoyed and stressed and started off with a bad day. Enough time to turn around and go back. You feel like, yeah, so Slowmaxxing, everyday thing. On the video I made that I'm going to publish of me riding with Kai yesterday for 3-4 hours, I talk about it a lot, and also about power meters and how to use power meters to actually make yourself better by using them as a limiter, so you don't train too hard, and then that way you can actually train more and you end up getting faster. And that's Slowmaxxing right there. So definitely look for that video. And we're on mile 9. 3 more to go. Yeah, you see those flags right there? See how they're blowing that way? And I had a choice on my run route, which way to run this street. This is downhill going that way. So it would have been uphill with the wind going that way. And that would have sucked and would have cooked me. So by doing better run route choosing, I can actually run into the wind in the hot sunny parts more often and be more successful with my run. And it really matters on long runs. It seems like I'm being obsessive and petty about this, but when you get overcooked in the rest of your day and then the next day it's just, you feel like hammered crap. It does make a big difference. Because again, we are in Texas. It is hot. This making the shaded dirt and gravel roads part of the last 2 miles instead of towards the beginning. It's really nice, really paying off. And also just now, things are starting to hurt a little bit. I'm well fueled and everything. I'm talking more about my joints, my hip flexors, all that stuff. We're mile 10, but it's not a 10-mile run. It's my limiter. It's a 30-mile week. And especially after all that biking yesterday. And if you're training for something, once you get a consistent volume, what you do in a week all the time, you run 30 miles a week, then you can run close to that in one time if you taper and then take off a week beforehand. So if I was to go out and do a 30-mile run race, if I tapered for it and everything and didn't run leading up to it, so everything was nice, feeling good, this is about how I'd feel towards the end. All right, welcome to Super Sweaty Camp. It's 82 to 85 degrees. It's gotten hot and humid, going uphill. So this is a nice part to talk briefly about. The title of the show, I'm going to call it Sorry Strava, I'm Slowmaxxing. And that's an acknowledgement of people obsess over their numbers on Strava, and then they never get any better because they're always training kind of medium to medium hard. And you have to throw all that out if you want to be successful at long distance stuff. It's way more about time and just tons of zone 2 and then occasionally going hard. But people want to just go medium hard all the time. So you have to back off and train your body and not the clock. And also for ultra stuff, you're going to end up walking. So it's good to practice walking and toughen up the skin you use on the bottom of your feet. You use it differently when you walk. And you'll get blisters if you don't practice speed walking a little bit. And yeah, so with River stopping and sniffing and then me walking little parts and dealing with the heat, the run pace for this is like stupid slow. But it's 12 miles of zone 2, you know, after a long bike ride. And so you have to just you don't care about the Strava. And let me take a sip of water. We can start running again. For example, right after this, I'm going to cool down, have an IPA, which I'll show you. We'll check on my knife to see how it's holding up with the sweat factor, and cool down in the pool, do some reflecting. But then we got to take Kai and Kylie out for their birthday lunch, and to not be just wrecked, because I went what felt like a normal pace, but because of the elements, the heat, it just destroyed me. You have to let go of all this, the STRAVA pacing. You feel like there's somebody behind me. I think there is. There was. Yeah, shoes are starting to feel hard. Pain's starting to kick in a little bit. Anyway, you know, an 11-minute mile just seems so ridiculously slow. But imagine the volume of time out here in the heat and just on your feet in zone 2. It's so good. And then there's this whole style of ultra racing now, backyard ultras, where they force you to run a 14-minute mile. People have trouble doing that, like running that slow at first. But that is the pace to run 100 miles in 24 hours. So if you can run a 14-minute mile, which sounds so easy, for 24 hours, they do laps to enforce it. So you can't go any faster. Very few people make it. And there's lots and lots of ultra stuff where a 14-minute mile might have you winning the race. So it's nothing to laugh at. And also, this is a run with no interval work in it. Purposely slow and easy. Because in a few weeks, Kai and I are doing a big bike packing trip. And I don't want to run too much and too hard. I want to keep my running easy so that I can prioritize good bike training. The bike intervals, so that I can take on the hills, are what's actually most important right now. And so I can't do good bike intervals if my legs are blasted from running too fast in the heat. So it all complements each other. So I'm slow-maxing this. I'm slowing this to have maximum benefit on our bike packing trip. Oh, this shade feels nice. Oh, so cool. And here's where I talked about, doesn't matter how hard I go in the beginning because the end is going to be hard. This is all uphill to my house, the last 3/4 of a mile. But what's interesting is people forget you can choose how hard to do this, right? That whole thing of where you think you got to run the same speed all the time. You don't, right? If this was a harder workout on purpose, like I'm doing polarized training, the run needs to be either easy or hard, or parts of it need to be easy or hard. And so, like I said, this is an easy run. So you have to let go and be like, I'm not going to run the entire thing up the top of this hill and kill myself. I'm actually going to power walk some of it, get my heart rate and my heat back down. Pour a little water over my head. People plan their bike routes, you know, so that it's got a tailwind on the way home. That's actually the opposite way you should do it. You should make it its tailwind on the way out, so it's nice and easy and good warm up. And then it's headwind on the way back. You're like, well, then it's going to be so much harder. Well, dude, you got gears on your bike. You don't. And if you have a power meter, which is heart rate, you can just look. And yeah, it can be frustrating if you haven't evolved your mind enough to be like, well, I'm going so much slower if I go easier into a headwind. And it's like, well, what do you want? You should be able to choose on your way back how hard you want to go to make the workout worth it. And the last little bit is where you can choose with that extra resistance coming at you. If it's a run, to either run it or walk it. And then you're dialing in your workout exactly right at the very end of how much stress it gave your body. And if you're going into a headwind or uphill on the way back, or both, if you're already kind of cooked, then you just gear down, take it easy, and spin up and enjoy it. But you're like, man, I feel freaking awesome. I'm gonna have a few days off where I'm not gonna be able to work out for a while because I'm traveling or something. Let's crank this up to 11 and finish strong. There's some butterflies. There's Emily, butterfly. I got to figure out what's going on with my camera. Why it's getting so foggy on this close-up mode. I don't think there's water in my lenses. But you know, a pattern starts to mean something. We're going to run to the bottom of this street that turns up to the left. Take it mostly in the shade. Keep it nice and easy. Oh, I got a breeze. That's so nice. Quick tech factor. We had Amazon drone delivery here in town. We're one of the few cities that had it. And people complain too much about the drones. The noise. It sounds like a giant lawnmower flying over your house. All right, that's 12 miles. Let's switch. There we go. I don't know. Okay, so nice and easy. 12 miles. It's 30 miles for the week. 150 miles biking. 12,000 if it was all freestyle yards. Freestyle swimming. Nice half Ironman plus level training. And a little bit of talk about Slowmaxxing. Video coming out of Kai's and on a bike ride. Talk about Slowmaxxing and all the ways to use power meters to slow yourself down so that you get better training out of it. And yeah, go check out, coaching. Send an email to Zen Triathlon. No, Texifornia, because I live in Texas and California. Texifornia@gmail.com with coaching somewhere in the email. That's what I look for. And then Slowmaxxing t-shirts at zenendurance.printful.me. At least go look at them. They're really cool. All right, let's go jump in the pool, cool down. All right, into the pool. We'll rinse off the camera lens while we're out here. Gonna go right in and cool down. We got a IPA. We'll see here in a second. Got Chip next door, the dog, the bloodhound. You can tell by the way he howls instead of barks, really. Gonna take all this crap off. Okay, take the fuel bottle out. There's the pocket knife, the way I had it clipped so that the pin was sticking out and not against my skin. And then the clip on the inside, like that. Let's dunk it in some water. Does that clean the lens at all? Just made it wet. Okay. Please remain calm. Carbach Brewery, Hopadillo. So we have armadillos here, so it's very Texas. And just a local koozie. That's another Slowmax tip right there. Oh, it's bubbling. Let's sit that down. So you'll almost never find me drinking a cold drink, Coke, Diet Coke, anything, carbonated water, unless it's out of a koozie. It's a Slowmaxxing trick. It keeps it's worth the extra work because then it keeps your beverage cold so much longer. In fact, I'll go to parties and bring a koozie because that's what they call these things around here. Because a lot of times they don't have them. And life is short. You don't want to enjoy, half of a cold beer and half of a hot beer. You want the whole thing to be cold, and that actually works really well to do that. And yeah, knife's looking good. So let's pop this off. The trick. So you can open it with one hand. That's pretty nice. Once you get used to it, it's brand new. It's a little hard to do that, but just like that. Really positive action and safety lock on it. And rinse off the visor. And also, I'm wearing waterproof headphones. These are 100% waterproof. They play MP3s, so I can actually swim. Those are my swimming headphones. And I'm gonna rinse off the outside Texas sunglasses, and we're gonna go under. Yeah, that cleaned the lens pretty nice right there. Hold on, I'm going under. So this is a trick that's really popular in hotter states, especially Texas. A lot of people have these small backyard pools. Or if you live in an apartment complex with a pool, you should rinse off at the shower so you're not dirty getting in a public pool like that. But jump in, cool down. You'll be able to use your gear twice before it starts to smell bad, which is really nice. And then the Seiko Apocalypse Now watch, really nice, solid. If somebody tries to attack me, I can just beat them over the head with it. Things like a freaking stainless steel brick. And I think that's it. I'll come back in just a second with any more thoughts. Yeah, all right, so I thought of a couple more things, which is a really good example of Slowmaxxing. You take the time to stop and then pause and think about what you've forgotten. And one, this was, I added a little bit of caffeine and food coloring to it, but that was scratch, and almost 300 calories of scratch for a 12-mile run, which is really nice. And then there's a video out. It actually got published a week ago, but it was in the members only area on Patreon all week. And I made it public yesterday or this morning, so the date might be a week ago. But it's happiness, peace versus happiness, and it's an hour and something bike ride with Kai and me a week ago. And it's just talking about, finding peace out there in the forest, bathing and biking and stuff, and lots of good outdoors time, and just talking. And then towards the end, you don't want to miss it, with about a third left, I talk about like dealing with toxic people, which is a really fun topic. Strategies to deal with difficult people in your life and some different perspectives, which is a Zen kind of thing. Are you the problem, or are they the problem, or you'll just never know, and just gotta let it go. And the video ends with the full-length version of me bombing downhill in aero bars that I've just adjusted because they weren't locked it down correctly. So I'm like, please hold together, please hold together, please hold together. You're going down on pavement, so it's pretty high speed, and then when you hit gravel from pavement, it just jars you all over the place. And so that's at the very end. But right before that, I'm working on my bike, trying to figure out what that sound is in my drivetrain, and there's gunshots going off around me, because there's people target practicing. I'm out in the country somewhere here in Texas, and I talk a little bit about guns and gun culture and how to have guns but not be so into guns and all that kind of stuff, and spend money on more fun things like bicycles. So you'll be surprised by what I say. So go check it out. All right. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills. Maximize the results from your slowness. And keep the rubber side down. Out.